So welcome everybody to the latest Joe Dale webinar. I'm absolutely delighted that today we have David Datny from Lingopie, the CEO of Lingopie, and we're going to be hearing all about how we can use authentic video and TV shows, etc., in the languages classroom. So David has launched Lingopie a couple of years ago. I think he's going to tell us all about it in a little while, but we're not going to do the standard sort of Joe Dale webinar when it's just someone presenting and me sort of collecting questions. What we're going to do instead is we're going to have more of a dialogue. So it's a different type of presentation, this one. It's more like a video podcast, if you will. So we're going to have an authentic discussion around the use of video. And I would absolutely love everyone to chime in with their thoughts, with their questions during the chat. So while we're talking about different things, if you could put your questions in the chat or your comments as well, and then we're going to collect all those questions together and put them in a Google Doc, which I've got running on my second screen. And then from there, when there's either a natural pause or at the end of the session, we will discuss these different questions that come up. But feel free to write any questions that you would like based on your own experience. It's helpful for us if you put the letter Q in front of your question. So it's really clear if something is a question or just a statement. And let's get started. So today is the 12th of June, 2023. I would imagine some of you maybe have broken up already. You're on holiday, but certainly in the UK anyway, still lots of weeks to go, still teaching. So I really hope that you're going to find this inspiring, and it will give you some ideas that you can put in straight away into the classroom, as well as preparing for September for the new school year. So without further ado, we're going to do some introductions. David, do you want to kick us off by saying hello and giving us a little bit of background about yourself, about Lingopie and your journey with using video and foreign TV shows in the classroom, outside of the classroom, to help you learning a different language? Over to you, David.
Sure. Thank you, Joe. It's a real pleasure to be here and to be able to join you on the podcast, talk a little bit about TV shows and movies in the classroom, as well as introduce the audience to Lingopie if they're not familiar with what we do. So yeah, it's amazing. We're big fans of everything you've been doing and getting the message out to the community about all the different technology out there for language learning. So my background is actually in the technology side. Originally, from that's what I've been doing. And I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lingopie. I'm also a language learning enthusiast. And that's kind of, how I got into language learning. So Lingopie is really based on my own experience. It's a language learning platform that uses real TV shows and movies to teach. So what we really do is we're taking real TV shows and movies, and we've built this whole language learning experience around it, interactive and immersive. I think the easiest way to imagine Lingopie is really the Netflix of language learning. So we're actually licensing thousands of TV shows in about 9 different languages. Then we're taking all that content and we're adding this interactive language learning layer on top that allows you to watch and learn with the content interactively, which is really fun. And so that's kind of how I learned a couple of different languages personally, and I kind of observed how other people were learning with television and film, and then we built this Lingopie around it. And I love TV, I love movies, and I love languages, I love travel. So it's, for me, it's a real kind of amazing opportunity to be able to do this and to bring it to others to be able to use, and teachers and students.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Now, I'd love to know from the audience how you're using, or how you have used authentic video in your classroom. I think one of the big issues particularly with younger learners is finding content which is age appropriate and accessible for them. So I think for, say, intermediate learners or for advanced learners, it's quite straightforward to find authentic video content that we can use. But for younger learners, that's definitely can be a challenge. We're going to talk more about challenges a bit later on, but in the chat, if you'd like to give us a few perspectives on how you've been using authentic video in your classroom. I can't wait for David to show us Lingopie, because I genuinely think it's really, really awesome, and it has some really awesome language learning features that maybe we haven't seen in other similar tools. So that's fantastic. But I want to have a more general conversation to start off with around the use of authentic video. Maybe could we just lose the slide there, David? Is that okay? So
Sure,
everyone
let's do it.
can see both of us close up. There we are. There we are. So that's fantastic. So I've got the chat open on the right-hand side. That's wonderful. So do let us know the sorts of different clips and different tools you've been using. That's great. I can see, for example, we've got some comments around translation and using subtitles, which I know is something which is incredibly useful. Having videos nowadays as a default, really, isn't it? To be able to have subtitles, whereas back in the day, watching a video, say on the BBC with subtitles, that was quite a rare thing in a way, and maybe seen as more of a niche thing. Whereas nowadays, I think, well, my understanding is that most people actually access video content with it muted because of the fact they might be on a train or on a bus or what have you. They might not necessarily be in a context whereby they can actually play video. Or sorry, play the audio of a video, so they have the subtitles. But of course, with language learning, you can pick up lots of different cultural clues and learn about different expressions, colloquial expressions. So just let's have a quick look at the chat. This is brilliant so far. We've got some different comments coming in. Finding clips at A-level for A-level students on YouTube. Using TikTok videos for GCSE. That's amazing, Esmeralda. Thank you so much for coming along. For beginners, nursery rhymes and songs, very, very catchy, fantastic earworms. We could go on other platforms as well, finding short little clips, which I know we're going to talk about in more detail a bit later with Lingopie. There are lots and lots of different short clips. They're not all sort of longer clips at all. There's lots of little short clips that you can use straight in the classroom. That's fantastic. So before we go into sort of like your backstory, as it were, David, in a bit more detail, what would you say are some of the benefits of using video, authentic video, rather than sort of prefabricated video, either in the classroom or maybe at home for learners to learn independently?
Yeah, so I think before I kind of dive into the specifics, I think we have to kind of go a bit, like maybe a bit more general and talk about why, like, how do we create successful language learning, right? It's about creating engagement. It's about creating motivation, number one. And when we think about creating motivation, we think about, why does someone want to learn? People typically, when someone successfully learns a language, it's because they've developed a real emotional connection to the culture, to the people, those types of things. And once they have that, it's much easier to create, to have the motivation to learn. So, when someone wants to learn, they want to do it for, because they want to feel local, things like that. And short of living somewhere, right, and immersing, television and film is really the best way to do that, because you get a peek into the people, into the culture, into the place, all those things that like we love television for, or film and things like that, music videos as well. And so that's number one. It kind of helps develop that kind of motivation because it gives you a real authentic view. And then, once you have that, then, it's really easy to create like additional engagement. So, when everybody loves television, everyone loves movies, this is the medium entertainment has been going strong, 100 years plus. And when we think about it, there's so many touch points within authentic video within the classroom that help and that are great for learning language. You have dialogue, you have subtitles, you have slang, all the themes and plots that are native, all these really kind of nuanced things that kind of excite people and are really engaging and fun. And all these things, again, help create that emotional connection for a person so they can watch and enjoy, and then they continue to learn and do the hard part, right? The translation exercises, like, learning the grammar, the structures, all those different things. So again, if you think about the video, you're accessing the dialogue, native dialogue. It's helping you improve your listening comprehension. You're hearing real speakers with natural speech patterns and intonation, all these different things that kind of really create, I would say, allow people to really focus on improving their comprehension. There's a lot of visual context within the video. You have the subtitles there to help to see, okay, what's happening in the video? How does it tie to the vocabulary and to the grammar? They're exposed to the various sentence structures within the subtitles. I think that's really great. Tons of repetition, of course, because they're hearing the same words over and over and over again. When we talk about like all these different ways to expose people to more to the words more often. Again, it's all there in natural dialogue. It's there in the subtitles, and all this kind of combined together really creates a very nice multimodal learning system where you're exposed to the audio, the visual, and the textual inputs within the subtitles. And from the teacher's perspective, it's great because you can use it in the classroom, but students can also use it at home to engage with. One of the most common feedback we get from teachers typically is like, I assigned this show or episode with Lingopie, and my kids watched, they didn't watch one episode, they watched 4. They're kind of binge watching and they're learning, and like, I was totally not expecting that. And we hear this over and over again, because again, you get this kind of dual effect. And we really love that, because I think that's the right way to do it. And again, one of the things that's great about television as well, like everybody loves to talk about the latest episode of something, what happened here and what happened there. It creates a really social learning aspect that I think is great around television and film and music. And you can do a lot with it in the classroom as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love the way in which with video that you can choose the speed in which the video is played back as well. So it means that you can rewatch something, you can play it at a slower speed or a faster speed. It's great for differentiation and for encouraging autonomy. And I absolutely loved the way in which you talked about the children binge watching a series. That's fantastic. That's like the holy grail, isn't it? That's exactly what we want the learners to do. So independently, they're choosing not just to watch the one episode, but to watch another 3 or 4 episodes because they're just enjoying the content. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And also the multimodal piece as well, I think, is one of the great things about video, the way in which it's not just a written text with maybe an image as well. It's actually moving images, it's video content. It's much more immersive, and the way in which the music as well can have an effect on our emotions, how a scene can resonate with us. I think that the combination of the different elements of the good acting, the good script, the clear dialogue, the music, and everything, there's something really special around video, which is why I thought it was wonderful to explore in more detail exactly the benefits of learning of video. And I'm really grateful to all the comments in the chat as well so far. Some great comments here so far, which is great in relation, for example, about using the speed feature to help with fluency and to ensure better articulation. I couldn't agree more. I think that's fantastic. And I think the whole cultural awareness, the way in which we can take video from anywhere in the world and we can give an insight into our classroom, we can bring in language that is being used in, say, French-speaking Canada. So we can understand that French, for example, it's not just spoken in France, it's spoken in other parts around the world. And by little video clips of, say, French spoken in Africa or in Canada or in Switzerland, we can get an idea that actually this is a global thing that we're doing, and we can and also to learn from other people who are the same age as the students watching the video. I think that's also really, really important. So when you were talking earlier, David, about the content which you particularly have liked watching, I think that's probably to do with the fact that you're naturally interested in that area. And of course, with the students as well, if you can find video content which then naturally they are interested in, then the language barrier is going to be easier to break that down because they want to know, or maybe it's a film they already know, but it's just in a different language. I think those sorts of techniques, those sorts of authentic videos can be broken down into bite-sized chunks and can make the content much, much more accessible. That's amazing. Fantastic. So what a great start. And thank you
Exactly.
so much again for everyone writing their comments and their questions in the in the chat. So I think before we get into some other aspects, or in particular Lingopie, can we talk a little bit about your sort of backstory? Where did this interest
Yeah.
come from, David? Because I'm sure the audience would be really interested to know. Because as you said,
Sure.
you're not from a language teaching background, you're from a tech
Exactly.
background, but you obviously have this
Exactly.
thirst and passion for learning languages. Where did that all start?
Yeah, so it started from my own personal, need to learn a language about 10 years ago. I came to Israel and I wanted to learn Hebrew. I didn't have any Hebrew background, so nothing. I just wanted to kind of immerse and learn. So I was doing it that way. But when I got there, I realized that this was going to be much harder than I expected. And so I was doing all the things that, you're supposed to do with traditional language learning. I enrolled in a class. I bought books. I was listening to stuff online. I was trying to, do translation exercises in the newspaper. And I was just, it was very difficult and frustrating. And I was living there and I was immersed in, doing all the things I was supposed to do. And the truth was, all the people who were doing it with me in the class, they were as freshmen. We were like, why? What's so difficult? And these are people, everyone was from all over the world. And it was interesting because we were speaking in English. And then it kind of just, occurred to me, like, I started asking people, how did you learn to speak English? And the answer that people gave over and over and over again was like, I just watched a lot of, American TV or movies. And I was just like, huh, that's such an odd answer because that's not what I expected. No, that's not what I did in grade school when I was like learning, different languages. And so I started doing it myself. I picked a couple Hebrew language TV shows and I started watching and with the subtitles, and I would, watch the video, stop, look up the word, write it down on a pad, transfer it to a flashcard, review after the episode, and I would do this over and over and over again, episode by episode, and it was really fun because number one, I was immersing in basically in the culture and in the stories of the people in the place that I really didn't have access to, even though I was living there. Because again, as an outsider, as not a local, who was I with? I was hanging out with other people like me. So it was really amazing and interesting, and I really enjoyed that. But again, I did the hard work around writing it down and reviewing and all these different things to create that extra learning around it. And then something really amazing started to happen is that like suddenly, I think after 3 or 4 episodes, boom, I was, my comprehension kicked in. I was able to I was understanding more and more. And for anyone who's ever learned a language, like when you actually start understanding, it feels like magic. It honestly,
Yeah.
it's a totally amazing thing when you go from this just frustration. I don't know what is being said. I don't know, I understand the words. I have no idea what you're saying. So like, wow, I know I can reply, I can speak back to you in a broken way. But again, that comprehension is really amazing. And I think that I got that because I had so much, I was immersed so deeply in the content and I was watching it often. So it was really great. And then, fast forward a bunch of years, I was working at another technology company, and I was speaking to a colleague of mine who just happened to have a background in television and film. And I told him this story about learning with TV shows and movies. And he was like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's great. So we said, let's build something that leverages great TV shows and movies from around the world. Let's build a platform so other people can learn in this way. Again, the Netflix of language learning. And that's so we set out on that path. And along the way, we said, okay, we really need to understand the pedagogy behind this. We want to see, has anyone tried this? What does the research say? What's been figured out in this space? And we started doing the research, and we saw that there was about 30 years of peer-reviewed academic research around language learning with television and film, specifically with closed captions. And it was interesting because there was one name that popped up over and over and over again, a professor from the University of Oxford by the name of Professor Robert Vanderplank. and this was kind of his specialty. And it was amazing to see that there was someone who like literally had spent his life studying this one thing. And so of course we got in touch with him and we explained kind of what we were trying to do and what we had already. And he, he was able to kind of steer us and give us, let's say, the best practices of doing it. Especially in the beginning, it was really helpful to be able to align with his research around language learning with television and film and closed captions. And it was invaluable. And I guess so far, the rest is history. We were able to kind of, we started with one language. Today we're up to 9. We'll continue to add languages and content and tools and features that help people. So
Amazing. And it's really, really refreshing to hear as well that you're very much coming from an evidence-based approach, so that it's not just like, oh yeah, let's just use a video, let's just let's just start a new platform, we'll just talk about how it can be useful for language learning. It's not actually entrenched and based on an evidence-based approach. So it's really lovely to hear that. I think we've whetted the audience's appetite enough. I think the time has come to do a bit of a dive into Lingopie and to show everyone why we think it's such a cool platform. And it really does have features, I think, that we haven't seen before in other platforms so far. So if you're happy to share your screen, David, I'd love to have a taste of what this is all about. And again, thank you so much for your lovely comments, everyone in the chat so far. Amazing.
Yeah, let me share just 1 second. Okay, all right. There we go.
Yep, all good. Okay, so this is the homepage, obviously. Do you want to talk us through what we're seeing right now and how we can choose the content which appears on the home page based on our own preferences, based on the students that we're teaching?
Sure. So, Joe, as you said, this is our catalog page. This is the catalog of the content available for Spanish, but we support 9 other languages: French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Russian, Korean, and Japanese. And each one has its own catalog for the specific, and we're adding additional languages. So Mandarin is coming, and other languages as well. So here again, you have this whole catalog, and you can see kind of, it's pretty extensive, and you can scroll across, and tons of different genres and types. So everything from long form, let's say telenovelas and dramas, to documentaries and short form content. So shorts, there's travel, there's cooking, all the different things that might be interesting. I give, again, a peek. We try to use authentic video from the region that give you a peek. That's number one. Then what you're able to do is you're able to kind of segment the content by various different, let's say, genres again, or length or level, because again, depending on the level of student, you may want to pick something different. So that's number one. You can also hover over it, get a bit more information. We can go here, for example, and see kind of, this is like a short, really, really fun short. You can see the episodes, dive in there, be able to see the episodes, a little description if you want to learn a bit more, a little preview.
Everything is subtitled, isn't it? And you can have it in the target language as well as in English if you prefer. It's very, very customizable, isn't it?
Exactly. It's all built specifically for language. So I'll show you kind of the video itself. So we're just going to dive into, this is kind of like a Spanish, like a Mexican nature show, which is really popular actually in Mexico. So we have it. And here you're kind of seeing like a video. You can kind of hover over any individual word, get an instant translation. You can also click on it, and you can break it out into its component parts. So here we've combined it into a small phrase. We do that because we believe that that's creates better memorization and recall of the words when certain things are memorized that way. And the whole player is very much customized, again, specifically for language learning. So you can use it. It's built for this. It's not, again, we haven't invented the concept of like, let's say, great video, right? But what we've done is we've really wrapped it in a really amazing way for you to use it for language learning. So if I just stop it, again, you can go forward and backward by the subtitles, so it's very easy to navigate. And everything that I'm interacting with, so the words, is being saved here in your word list. You can see that counter go up, and you'll see, okay, all right. And then you can also turn off a subtitle. So if you have more advanced speakers, you can turn it off, and you want to, you want them only to watch it with the Spanish, so they can do that. If they're feeling adventurous, they can also just watch it with no subtitles. That's also okay. And if you have more beginners, you can also watch it with the English subtitles, and you just want them to watch it for, again, just to hear the language, just to become familiar with it. With beginners, sometimes that's really great to do. So you'll take a short clip or maybe a music video or a short, watch it again, just watch it through for understanding. And then the second time around, they can interact with different words that they don't know, or vocabulary, things like that. That's, really, really effective. One thing that you mentioned before, Joe, that's really, really important is the ability to slow down the video. So if you're more of a, you're just starting out on your language learning journey, you can watch it at a slower speed. You'll be able to focus on the words, the comprehension, all those different things. Honestly, I wish I had this when I was learning. That's why we built it, because it was a tedious process, but it was great because of the content. And this is, now I'm just, I feel like a kid in the candy store, because I can just say, okay, this is how we want, this is what we want, let's build it. You have the whole transcript. You can navigate like that. You can also turn on an auto pause feature, which is really cool. So you can watch it and it'll pause after every subtitle. And then you just click away. So you'll play. And what'll actually happen, let's just speed that up. And then it'll play. And then it'll pause. And then you just click anywhere and it'll continue to play. That's a really nice feature. You have the ability just to loop as well. So if they want to just like loop the same subtitle or set of subtitles, they can do that. That's really nice. Again, to focus on the comprehension. Let's just turn back on our subtitles. 1 second. Oh. So again, it's really, we're always additionally, again, adding additional features here and optimizing here based on feedback of teachers and students. I'll just mention 2 other features real quick. We have so there's also a say it sentence feature, which you can practice your pronunciation. So I'm going to embarrass myself here and try it out. So let's do it.
Go for it.
Okay. I'm going to try to say this, and it's going to grade me. Let's see what I get. No hay manera. Now it's going to,
Well
it's
very sympathetic.
I'll admit I chose a very easy one. So, it's okay. And you can listen to yourself back. I won't do that because, that will embarrass me.
I love that feature. It's really good. And I love in general how it's very clear how you've put in a lot of thought into how the player works and how it can be customized. I think it's fantastic. And that ability to practice pronunciation, which is something which lots of language teachers, I think, are looking for with technology. I think it's a really nice feature that you've got that embedded within the player, so they can maybe come across an expression which they particularly like, and they can just practice saying that, and that will stick with them. Because I'm sure as language learners, we can all think of a particular word or expression that we've all that's really resonated with us because of the context we remember learning it for the first time. And I think that video content like this is brilliant for doing exactly that.
Exactly.
I know we sort of touched a little bit. Sorry, David.
No, I was just gonna say it's exactly that. It's all about all these little touch points are all about creating that additional immersion, that gives you that creates that, helps, let's say, leverage the video watching experience. Again, all that multimodal learning. If we're able to, again, practice a little speaking, practice hear it additionally, click on the words. Again, it's creating that additional repetition. And again, it's fun and it's engaging. And you're getting that, you're learning about the culture, and you're, again, immersing in creating additional reasons why you would want to, let's say, put in the extra effort and engage more with learning.
Absolutely. And presumably when the teacher shares the video content with the students, each student can choose their own way of customizing the play, so they can make it fit their needs independently and in a personalized way. Is that right?
Exactly. So 100%, 100%. And I just wanted to show one other thing
Yeah,
before I
yeah,
forget. Here again, you can take a quiz as well. So there's quizzes that are kind of can be taken. They don't have to be taken, but they can be taken. And by the way, all of this can be tracked by the teacher as well. If what the students are interacting, if they're interacting, if they're not interacting, if they're watching, if they're not watching. So all these different things. So okay. So yeah. So my Spanish isn't great, but yeah, these are, like I said, this is kind of the player, and we're always improving it. So I'm going to jump out and I'll show you we also have our contextual flashcards.
Yeah, this is a killer feature. Hold on to your hats, everyone. I can't wait for you to see this.
So what you just saw here, you can watch the clip where this word quiero was used in context of the video you watched. So again, you're able to review it and learn it again in context, because again, that contextual feedback creates that additional, let's say, cue to help you create that feedback, to that recall on how and where that word was used in context, which is really fun. So you can say, I know it, and then you can continue. Here.
So that would have been the clip that you just took. Is that right? So you can
Exactly.
little clips, make them into flashcards, and then review them afterwards.
Yeah, it's all automatic. It's all automatic. It's happening for you. You're able to, again, the teacher is able to track this, and I'll show you in a minute how that's happening. So again, the students are reviewing. Maybe they're saying, I'm not sure, and you can see what they've done. And I'll show you a couple other ways that students can review. So this is, by the way, the students' word list. They can manage that. They can, once they, if they want to delete a word, maybe they clicked on something that was, oh, I know that word. They were just double checking. So they can delete the word. They can listen to the pronunciation. They can listen to the pronunciation. They can also mark they know it. And they can, review this is their kind of, master list here. We also have, so we saw the flashcards, we saw the pop quiz, which I showed you briefly, and then there's also the word master, which is kind of a mix and match. There you go. All right.
You're doing very well.
Yes, I'm very proud of myself.
But this is all about giving students agency, isn't it? It's all about encouraging them independently. That's what I love this sort of tool.
Exactly. And here you can see up here, you'll be able to, you can track how much you've watched, how many words you've added, how many words you learned, kind of in the global sense per student. So again, we have our main catalog. We have, we also allow you to kind of have a customized, just kind of a kids only catalog, which is maybe more focused on like younger learners and, children. And again, all of this content is, let's say, can be customized based on like the age and age level. So the students are not being exposed to mature content if you don't want them. So we have certain, college students, so they're able, usually the professors are like, oh, they can watch whatever they want, but if someone is in grade school, then, we want to be more, more
mindful of their age.
Exactly.
And make sure
Mindful of their
that they will only access content which is age appropriate, which
100%, 100%. And again, we're talking about different cultures and different norms. So you'll see different things happening in the video. So we do take that into account. We have a team that is vetting all the content, making sure all the content is appropriate for that age, and we grade it according to that, specifically for language learners. And then we also have we have another really cool feature. So again, if you have a Netflix account, or your students have a Netflix account, so what we allow you to do is actually turn any Netflix show into a Lingopie experience, which is also really cool. So again, you're going to see this right here.
This is quite a new feature, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, so here you have Money Heist, which is a really popular show. What we're actually do is we're adding a layer on top of Money Heist. So it's going to play as usual. And you can just, again, you're going to get all the same features, everything here, everything is being saved. You can see the words are being added. So again, your students, and the way we do it is we're using a kind of like an extension on top of the content. So, it's all legal enough, so it's all available. And it's just another great way to leverage content for language learning purposes. We also have music videos, so you can do the same thing with great music videos as well. So you have a lot of you can watch. You want to learn with Shakira and use this as like a tool in the classroom or at home. Maybe the students have to pick like 3 or 4 3 or 4 music videos. They can do that. We have playlists, all the different things that you're going to want, or the kids are going to want, right? To kind of engage with the content and languages. Now, let's talk a little bit about the teacher side, kind of the dashboards and how you manage all of this for your students and how you assign classes. So number one, the easiest way, I'll just, it's really easy to assign content to your students. You just kind of hover over it and you kind of just click and assign. Now, number one. Number two, let's just go to your classes. So you'll have your classes here. So this is kind of the first dashboard I like to show, which you can visualize all your classes. Again, this could be available to your whole school. This could be available to just to one class or many classes. And you can create multiple classes, and then you can see all of your students in your classes. And so we'll just go to one class, Spanish A1. You can see all the classes here. When was the last session? How many words they clicked? How many words they learned? And then you can click into the student and you can see all the different content that they've been viewing, how many episodes, again, all the words that they're interacting, did they review them, all the kind of things you want to know to make sure your students are, let's say doing their assignments. We all want them to, to get to ace it.
So that's exactly what teachers are looking for. They're looking for those sorts of analytics, so they can see exactly how each student is performing individually, and then they can then put in intervention strategies to support them individually. And that's one reason I think that technology can really help with that sort of personalized learning. But as well, if anyone's thinking all these names are sort of made up, believe it or not, we Lingopie does not have an account with Hogwarts. So Luna Lovegood is a made up character. If anyone starts screaming about GDPR, so that's all fine. And also another disclaimer: use this with Netflix, you would have to have a Netflix account. It doesn't come as part of
it doesn't
Lingopie.
come
Just
exactly.
But if they have a Netflix account, why not? If they can use the player with Netflix, I think for some learners that would be a fantastic boon. I think for sure.
Yeah, and this is something that also the teacher can set. So if they don't want our students to have access to the Netflix select section, that's as well, that can be set. So again, all of this is able to be customized. Again, we've seen different schools and universities say, yeah, we love Netflix, we use it all the time. But again, we're not able to get leverage it for all of its language learning potential. Our philosophy has always been like, we want to be able to use great content no matter where it is. We have our own catalog, as I said, of like 3,000 plus shows, but there's great content in other places. So we're working on Disney Plus as well and other platforms. That's kind of how we want to do it. I'll also show you here, you can kind of, manage your teachers. You can add additional you can have multiple teachers if you're an administrator, if this is a district or a department, so you can have multiple teachers with their own classes. They'll only be able to see their own classes, things like that. You can also, here's all the assignments. You can kind of, again, manage your assignments. Either it's running or it's already been closed out and done. You can see how many students have done the assignment. You see our students haven't been doing their work, in Hogwarts. So we'll have to have get
I
in
think
touch
it might
with
be
them.
helpful at this point, maybe if you could just show us how easy it is to actually make a class, sort of live,
Sure.
as it were, and then how to add a video to that class, and how to share that, if that's okay. I'm just thinking
Sure. No,
as well, it'd be
exactly.
useful to sort of clarify about the data and where the emails are stored, and if you have to have an
Sure.
email address
Sure.
from a student point of view to be part of Lingopie. I think just to go over the whole GDPR compliance around Lingopie would be really helpful for the audience.
Totally. Totally. So number one, when you want to add a class, you just click here and you just name the class. So you can call it, let's say, Spanish, let's say A1 winter semester, right? Just pick your teacher and you create the class. Oh, I wanted to show you one more thing. Here, this is where you set the student's age restriction. So
Yeah,
you can kind of set it according to this. That will allow you to, again, limit the content, and the content is automatically limited. So there won't be any, any unfortunate circumstances around the content.
absolutely.
So that's number one. And then again, once you have a class created, you can easily invite the students. So here you just invite the students. What you're actually going to do is you're going to generate this kind of custom link with this code. That can be, you can give that to your students however they want. They're going to get this link, and then what they can enter, again, they can either use an email, or they can use, or you can send us a list with a list, and we'll generate kind of logins for them, because we are sensitive to, some schools, they want to provide email, some don't, some will generate logins. It really depends. You don't have to use any names. Again, we're not we don't need any specific information about a student. As you said, we are, fully GDPR compliant. We're obviously very sensitive to all the different things around privacy, and things. And you can easily also manage and delete student information at the end of a semester. So it's very easy to do. As well, directly from the dashboard, you can get in touch with us. We're happy to do that as well. So it's
Amazing.
and
So,
then,
so the teacher is in control, and the students don't have to supply an email address if the teacher doesn't want that to happen. That's right, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. It really depends on the teachers, because again, we're there's middle schoolers and high schoolers and university students here. So you have you have the full kind of range of students here. And as I said, it's very simple. You want to, let's say we want to assign a show, so you just click here, select the class, you select the episode, okay, and you'll put the date, and then let's say I don't know, say
It's the 12th, isn't it? Is that right?
yeah, I just wanted to, yeah, well,
So that's interesting. You've actually got it in the sort of like the UK way of saying the date, rather than because the American way isn't it the month first?
yeah, I think I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong.
There we are.
Yeah.
Got it. But could you change that if you were, say, based in Europe? Could you have it in a different way?
Not that I know of, because I think this is all kind of, but it could, listen, if we had enough, if people wanted to do it that way, we
Yeah.
could. Like I said, we are, we want to provide a, like a seamless solution for the teachers. So, we're always, it's all about the feedback. Like I said, if a teacher wants it and we can do it, we'll do it. That's
Fantastic. So hopefully that's given everyone a good idea on how to set the classes up, how the data is handled, and then how to assign a particular video to a class. Yeah, that's fantastic. I was going to talk a little bit about we mentioned challenges earlier, didn't we? What do you think are the challenges when using authentic video, and how do you feel that Lingopie has met those challenges and succeeded with breaking down those challenges and giving us a fantastic solution for accessing authentic video?
Sure. Well, we mentioned, getting access to content. That's typically finding good content, finding appropriate content. That's always, it takes time. You have to screen the content, you have to watch the content, you have to know that it's appropriate. It takes work, right? Now we've tried to do that work for you. So we're screening it, we're rating it, we're saying, is it, is it, what's the, is it, what kind of learner is it good for? What's in there? So no, that's the first thing. The second thing is the language complexity. So, there's certain shows that will, let's say there's a ton of slang in there, or maybe it's more appropriate for beginners or advanced, all these different things. So we are looking at the complexity of the languages because we have access to the subtitles. So we're able to kind of use our smart NLP engines to kind of do some work there around the language and the grammar. So that kind of, and then we were able to kind of rate it on our side. And that, that just makes it easier to pick, the content to use. And I think most importantly is that when you use content in the classroom or assigned for watching at home, sometimes you don't know, it can be a passive experience, right? If it's not used correctly, it can be just kind of, you put it on the background, someone's watching it, maybe they're watching it, maybe, or they're just reading the English subtitles and not really engaging as they should be. Maybe they're not looking up the words. It's very hard to really know, are the students getting the most out of this that they can? And at Lingopie, we've really kind of tried to build the tools and the tracking so you can understand, number one, whether the students are interacting, because we've created different ways for students to interact with the content and immerse in the content. And you can see that as a teacher. We want you to be able to track that. We want to be able to do that. But again, we want the students to enjoy themselves and immerse. So that's kind of, we're trying to look at both things. So you're able to assess whether the students are getting everything out of the video that they can. I think, and the last is all these things together, because there's, like, teachers are busy. There's a lot to do there. Yeah, and sometimes, like assigning or finding a show and doing all this can take a lot of work, because, maybe you want to plan, post, let's say, different activities around the video, create additional questions, different things to kind of, again, engage students with the video. It's a lot of work. And so all those time constraints can make it, let's say, less interesting to use video. And so again, we try to solve that by making, let's say, take the burden from the teacher and put it into the platform as well, around all the different, let's say, review tools and features we've built.
Yeah, superb. I think before we look at sort of what's the future now for Lingopie, I think it would be a good point to put some of these questions that I can see have been arriving in the chat, if that's okay, David. So maybe if you share your screen again back on Lingopie, and then we can have a look at some of these questions, and then we'll look at the future roadmap for what we've got to look forward to in the future. So to start off with, I'm just going to cover about 8 or so questions, but if anyone has any additional questions they want to ask, then feel free to put that in the chat, and I'll have the chat running as per normal as well. So to start off with, we've had a question around translation. Who does the translation for Lingopie? Are they the given subtitles, e.g. former professional translators, or is this something which has been translated by the team?
Yes. So we are using our own team. Okay. And we're using technology to do it. So number one, we have a couple different layers. We've built our own, let's say, translation technology. And on top of it, we have a team of language and translation experts in Lingopie for every single language that are vetting, let's say, the accuracy of it. Because I think what's one of the things that we need to do is we want to go word for word with the native subtitles and captions need to be word for word, right? That's number one. Number two, the translation subtitles, or the English subtitles in this case, we don't want them to, like, be let's say, how would I say it? They need to be a little more close to the native
Mhm.
language, because again, if you've ever watched, like, let's say Netflix subtitles and you understand the native language, you'll see that they're really different, because again, they're
Yeah,
localizing
yeah,
the translation subtitles, or the English subtitles, in my case, again, to make it, let's say, easier to understand. So we're trying to walk a fine line. So again, you can create a connection between the subtitles, the native and the spoken, the native and the translation subtitles, so you can, where there is a crossover, but again, it does make sense, because again, if you just translate many times subtitles, you're like, well, it doesn't make sense. So we do want to do that as well.
awesome. So it's really nice to hear that you've got human beings doing the translation. It's not all done by AI, which I know can be really, really useful. But it's nice to hear that you're actually getting human beings
Yeah.
deciding on the translation for different clips. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see very, like, if you use kind of some engines to do it, you'll see some really, really funny things, popping out uh, of the translation. So if you ever look at the captions that are auto-generated on YouTube, you'll see some really, really funny and ridiculous things happening there. So we don't want that to happen on Lingopie, and we make sure it doesn't.
Fantastic. Okay, that's a great answer. Fantastic answer. So the next question is, how are the videos organized in the program? Are they benchmarked for levels? And is there any language focus related directly to the videos? And also we had another question I can see from Chris in the chat around the levels. Are the levels sort of mapped to the Common European Framework, or is there any sort of mapping that's happening for those particular levels? Or is it just something that you've decided on as a team?
Yeah, so we have our own kind of language, let's say, academics and tutors and linguists here, who kind of group them in a way, because again, remember, these are real TV shows, right? These are TV shows and content and music videos that have been created for native and local audiences, right? These are not created for language learning. So in that case, it's very hard to say, okay, this is an A1 TV show or music video. This is an A2, and this is and I think anyone who's going to try to do that, you're going to end up with, it's just not going to work. So what we try to do is we try to group them in a way that you can still use them for the different levels. But again, there has to be some more kind of a general type, it's a general grouping. And we are building out more specific, let's say, modules, which will align, let's say, to various curriculums, and can be customized to curriculums. But I think right now, the way we do it is more just kind of generalized. Our team will say, okay, we feel that this can be used by someone who's an A1, or an A2, something like this, and generally speaking, and the C1, C2, something like that. And this has, like, for various different reasons. Maybe they speak quickly, maybe there's certain things in slang, and maybe it's the accents. It could be all kinds of different things.
Fantastic. Lovely. That's great. So next question, with the songs and the lyrics, for example, the example
Yeah.
that you gave us, how do you advise using the songs, getting students to listen to the song, then give them the lyrics and get them to translate the lyrics? Or if you were to sort of put this into a sequence within a lesson, what would you suggest on ways of using authentic songs in the classroom?
Yeah, I think it's great to say, okay, pick out 4 or 5 songs that you really like, that you think are fun. I think number one is just listen to it a bunch, and then read the English lyrics, try to understand it, get familiar with the context, because again, music is addictive in a way that I think that TV and movies is not, because you can watch that over and over again, and then review, and then start to pick out the different words and phrases, and try to understand it in a more nuanced way. I think that's a really good way to do it. For me, again, on Lingopie, because again, I want to be able to watch that video over and over again. And again, it's video, so it's fun. It's a bit more. It's a bit easier to kind of interact with than, let's say, just the music itself. So again, I think that's typically what I would advise, is just start with just, again, enjoying the music, and then listening to a couple times, understanding kind of what's being said, and then start to pick out words and phrases, and maybe assign maybe 10 different words or phrases that are coming from it, from that song, and then maybe, you know, have the students review, maybe present those words, or speak about the song in general, the themes, or, you know, things they see.
Fantastic. I think another possibility as well is to actually give the transcript or the lyrics to the group
Sure.
while you actually play the video. And maybe I've seen examples of people putting the lyrics into, say, a word cloud, so that they get like a feeling of what the song is about before they actually play, before you actually play the song. A little bit like, sort of like their reward, that they actually get to hear the song once they've done a bit of analysis on the lyrics and picking out what the students think that the song is about, and then actually playing the song can be a nice a pre-listening activity for them to do. I think that's a
Sure.
suggestion.
So funny you should mention that. We're just about to launch this amazing, really new feature, which is called Words to Learn, which is actually going to do a couple different things. It's not a word cloud, but it is kind of bubbles up kind of the words that are most important based on that user's level that our team has suggested for you to focus on. And what we're also doing is we're color coding all of the words in the subtitles according to their parts of speech. So you can now then also start to break out the sentence just visually by, okay, this is a verb, this is a noun, like, and you'll see again how all the different parts of speech are playing in that sentence as well. So that, you know, I'm glad you mentioned it, because otherwise I wouldn't have.
Well, I think that's a really fantastic feature. I'm sure that's music literally to teachers' ears, either watching it live or on the recording. The fact that you can break down the lyrics into different parts of speech automatically, I think that's amazing. That's fantastic. Lovely. So let's do a few more questions, if that's okay. The next one is, what would you recommend to be, we've sort of covered this already, but let's just to clarify, what would you recommend to be a good structure for a video lesson? Is there any common connection or themes across videos, for example, any drama or serial? What would you I mean, I could see sort of from the keywords that were coming up that you've got things organized into different categories like drama, serial, music video, and what have you. But what would you sort of recommend as within a lesson? Let's say if you were using a short cartoon, maybe, what would you suggest on sequencing that within a lesson?
Yeah, it's a good question. So as you said, you know, we've created categories, different categories here, and we're always changing up the categories to help you discover new content, because there's so much content here. It's, you know, it can be sometimes a little bit overwhelming as well. So once you kind of, number one, you should find content that I think speaks to your audience, and you can test different content, right? So you can try something that's more, maybe, you know, this is like a Spanish short comedy that's coming from RTV in Spain. So you can, these are kind of like it's something like a Saturday Night Live, but like skits. So maybe that's funny for an older audience, and then you can have them pick out kind of different things that are interesting and unique to that content. If it's you know, maybe younger audience, you can use cartoons and things like that, and have them, you know, maybe watch an episode. You can, number one, you can show it in class, and then you can ask them to review it, watch it at home, and to, again, to, you know, make sure they click on, you know, 10, 20 words, and then review them, things like that, or make sure they take a quiz. So I think those are really nice ways to do it. I always like combining something in the classroom with something to do at home. And then once they've kind of interacted with it, once they come back, you can have like a discussion around it, or do something, you know, maybe they talk about the plot or the theme or the characters. They can do a review around the content. I think that's really great as well. Again, because there's so much to pick apart here in the content, and there's so much that can be discussed. One of the things we're also working on right now is creating more like activity sheets that you can also, let's say, PDFs that you can use if you want to, as well, based on level. So that's kind of also a work in progress,
Yeah,
and maybe
fantastic.
might be helpful.
And I think what I'm really impressed about is the way in which you've got so much content from a whole range of different countries. You've got, Argentina, for example, that cartoon just there is from Argentina. And I can think
Hmm.
from the point of view of promoting intercultural understanding, it's just superb. We are, for those people in the chat, we are going to, I'm sure, get onto pricing in a little bit, but let's do a few more questions if that's okay. So the next question is, are quizzes on vocabulary built in as a feature? What would you say to that one, David?
Yes, they are. They're built in. You don't have to require the students to take them. So right now they're like, but they can be. But right now, but again, they're not necessarily required, meaning they're triggered when students are interacting with the content. Now, again, one of the things we're working on, two interesting things right now. We're working on a grammar module, which will kind of explain the content and quiz students on different kind of grammar things and give them tools and tips, and as well additional quiz type things like fill in the blank, and different games and things to help that. So all those things are available to the
Yeah, that's
students,
great.
and you can track if they're using them or not.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, let's do a few more. Flashcards can be used to learn vocabulary, but are they already made, or does the student choose which words they want to try to learn? I think that's a really important question. What would you
Yeah,
say to that one, David?
yeah. So they can choose the words that they want to learn, number one, because I think that's really important for them to have that kind of ability to say, okay, I don't know this, because every student is different. Every student, there has to be this adaptive learning element here where they have the agency to pick out the words they learn, because again, they're on their own language learning journey, right? And I think that's important. And they all have different backgrounds as well. So that's number one. Number two, we are, as I mentioned before, we are building out additional kind of, let's say, learning lists and modules. Well, you'll be able to, let's say you want to learn specific words around travel or fruit, things like that, or things in the kitchen. So we are building kind of these like lists where you'll be able to kind of access, find out where these words occur in the content, and hopefully that'll be available soon as well. So you'll be able to kind of access the different places, and then students can watch like the clips from these different shows. And I think it's also a great way to discover interesting content, because again, honestly, as I mentioned before, I think it's the best when students, they're having so much fun with the platform that they're just like using it like they would Netflix, or they're using it like they would YouTube, and they're interacting with the content and they're watching and they're learning in a way that's, really, in a way that they're really familiar with, right? Because
Yeah,
they're doing it anyway. They're doing it on they're doing it on TikTok, they're doing it on YouTube. But why shouldn't they do it, for language learning? That totally makes sense.
totally. And talking of Netflix, we had the question around the tracking that you showed us so well
Yeah.
earlier. If they're watching content on Netflix but using the Lingopie player, does that mean
Mhm.
that content is also being tracked by the teacher, or is that just independent?
Yes, yeah. So what you can see here, you can also assign this to a class, right? So you can easily assign, Money Heist to your class, or you can set, this is like this is a Netflix show right here. So right here, these are different, different various Netflix shows. You can just assign them the same way, and all that is going to be tracked.
Amazing. So that would be the teacher would have to choose to assign a video to a class. It couldn't be that an individual student on Netflix wants to access the Lingopie player, and that could be tracked as well. Is it all? I mean, I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, but
Yeah.
presumably,
So number one, the teacher has to, if the teacher has if they want to open again, make available this section, the Netflix selects for their students, right? And then the student, if they're going to watch Money Heist on their own, they can do that from here again, because again, they have access to the catalog. Or the student or the teacher can assign it if it's an assignment, right? Because there's two things. There's like what we said before, again, there's the shows that they should be watching, and then there's the shows that for their assignments, and then there's what they can do on their own to engage with. Because again, remember, there could be a student, he's really interested in, I don't know, you know, some specific thing. It could be a drama, it could be a comedy. Maybe they like certain cartoons around gaming, I don't know, or whatever it is. They can find what's interesting for them, and I think that's also really important.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. So I think you've given us a really, really good understanding of what Lingopie is all about, and I love your backstory to say where you came to this point in order to build Lingopie on an evidence-based approach. I think now probably one thing that everyone's thinking is, what are the costs? So could you give us an idea of what it would cost, for example, for a languages department, or for a whole school, or all those other different combinations that we could have? What would it cost to use Lingopie? Is it based on student numbers? Is it just a departmental account? Could you give us an insight? We don't have to talk actual figures. Obviously, it's up to you, but give us an understanding of the sort of pricing structure that you have in place for Lingopie.
Sure. So we, again, as you can assume, it's really based on so we take a number of different factors into account. Number one, what's the age of the students? What kind of class are you using? Is it again maybe a grade school versus a university, and number of students, of course, and number of licenses, and is it a district department? How many classes? All those different things. But all that being said, our goal is to get Lingopie into the hands of the teacher so they can start using it in the classroom. We really want to, find a way to make it work. We are licensing this content, so of course we have costs and things like that, and we want to continue to deliver this for the long term. But again, our goal is to get this into the hands of the teachers so they can get, they can start using it and start, getting their students hooked on, binge watching and learning with with TV shows. So that's our goal. Happy if someone is interested in discussing specific pricing for and to let feel free, just please reach out to us. You can email us at schools@lingopie.com, or find us on our website. So I can I'll put that up right now as well. So just in case someone wants that, I'll share that again later as well.
Amazing. Fantastic. So thank you so much. That's wonderful. And I think maybe to finish off with, if it's okay, and thank you so much for all those great questions from the audience as well, is talking a little bit about the roadmap. What's in the future pipeline for Lingopie? What can we expect to see down the track? What interesting features have you got in mind, David, to wow us even more?
All right. Yeah. So number one, I know I mentioned a bunch that are in the works. We have a pretty extensive R&D team that's always coming up, and product team and language team that's coming up with all kinds of different things. And we're always speaking to students and teachers to really understand what everybody wants. So I'll just name a couple things I think that are interesting and what we're working on. So number one, we think that we're working on these like really fun interactive quizzes that you can use in the classroom, kind of like a Kahoot, I guess. So like if you're screening a Lingopie movie in the show, or a TV show in the class, then you can have these like interactive quizzes pop up on students. Let's say if they're using tablets, like something like a Kahoot, which is really fun. So the video would stop and then they would get like a multiple choice question. That's really fun. Again, we're working on a more sophisticated interactive custom quiz builder that the teachers can do themselves. So if they want to customize certain parts of the experience, they can do that. I mentioned activity sheets. I think we're working on additional gamification and scoring, so you have that additional visibility into what the students are doing, and also giving, showing more to the students about how they're progressing as well on their own, because that's important as well. And just general analytics and reporting. I think the more we understand how people are using it, how students are using it, I think is helpful for everyone. That's on the teacher side. I think there's additional things we want to do. I mentioned the grammar module. So the way it's going to work is it's like a grammar co-pilot. So the way you can click on words, you'll also be able to click and get an instant grammar explanation of what's going on in this, in this subtitle or sentence or paragraph, and explain it out to you. So I think that's very fun, and I think will be helpful for a lot of people. Various dictation and speaking exercises. So things like Speak It that I kind of showed before. We're working on something that's very interesting around scenarios. So you'll be able to chat with kind of like a chatbot around scenarios, where you'll be able to role play. Let's say, for example, on Casa de Papel, you want to, you'll be able to chat with the professor, right? And he'll be able to talk you through some fun little scenarios, so things like that. And that's kind of like the immediate things that we have going on. Then there's, one. I don't know how many of you out there saw the Apple Vision Pro demo. So it was really cool. I don't know, Joe, if you had a chance to see it.
I had a sense of what it was all about through Twitter, but I didn't actually watch it live. But essentially, it's like a sort of a VR headset. Is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of an AR VR headset. It's like VR, but it's actually AR. So what they're doing is they've created this AR experience. They've taken reality and put it in a virtual environment, which is maybe a bit hard to understand, but it creates this really immersive way of experiencing content, especially, which is, I think it's best for content. So you're able to you want to have a 50-foot screen, you can have a 50-foot screen with content. You want to be able to climb into the video, you can climb into the video. And so we've started kind of the early, let's say, work of building out something there where you'll be able to kind of experience Lingopie, sit, with something like this on, this Vision Pro, sit on your couch, have a massive screen in front of you, be able to interact with the subtitles. You'll be able to then go to the flashcards and then kind of interact in this, what was that Tom Cruise movie? What was it? The one where he's
Oh yeah.
Someone remembers.
Yeah.
They can throw it in the chat.
Come on.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But it's very much like that, because to me, that's the most amazing way where you can interact with the video. You can sit there and watch and then interact and learn in this kind of, again, you're sitting on your couch. You don't have to be at your desk. You don't have to be at your computer interacting with you're kind of almost fully immersed. Now, I'm sure there's probably negatives here that I'm not thinking about, but
Minority Report.
Minority Report.
Pedro's
exactly.
a star in the chat. He said Minority Report. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about it. I think the headset is a bit expensive. I think it's $3,500, but that technology is all going to come down. Yeah. And I think when it finds its way into the classroom, I think that's going to be also really interesting, and it's going to change a lot of things. So we're gonna be ready.
And on that point, I think we've got so much to look forward to, but also so much to explore in this recording. I'd really encourage everybody to watch the recording back, to share it with their colleagues, to get in touch with David and the team at Lingopie, to have a chat about pricing based on your own context. That would be fantastic. But I think we've really achieved what we wanted to achieve today, which was to show people how amazing Lingopie is. I'm sure it's new to lots of you in the audience right now, and the fact in which you can personalize it and customize it individually to achieve that sort of personalized learning that we're all trying to do, and the way in which the teacher gets access to all this data as well, so the teacher can see exactly how the students are interacting with the videos. I think it's really an amazing platform. So thank you so much for your time today, David, and I'm sure that everyone has found it really, really useful and interesting to explore. Any final words or final thoughts?
Yeah. First, lastly, I just want to thank you, Joe, for the opportunity to speak about language learning. Speak about Lingopie, and you just have this great conversation. Of course, answer any questions, and hopefully looking forward to maybe doing it again in the future, and keeping the conversation going with everyone here. So anyone who wants to learn more, they can reach out to us again at schools@lingopie.com. Check us out at lingopie.com/schools, and we'll be happy to kind of give you more details, walk you through whatever you need. We're here for you.
Amazing. Thank you. Let's finish on that point. That's a really lovely way to finish and wrap up the webinar. So I'm going to stop the recording right now and wish everyone a jolly good evening or good morning, or maybe it might be very late for you, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for coming along and learning all about Lingopie. So I'll stop recording right now.